So, First Friday originated back in 1988.
Damn, 1988.
I know, man.
Good Lord.
Let's see. I wasn't even out of college yet. Thank goodness.
Oof, yeah.
I am long in tooth, but I wasn't out of college when First Fridays originated. But it started in both. It was bi-coastal. It started in New York and San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And it was started by a group of African Americans who said, hey, look, you know what? We work at these corporations,
right,
and we're kind of isolated.
Right.
Like, it's like might be 5 or 10 of us at one company. But we're in different departments. We don't even see each other all day, right?
So wait a minute. You said 88, right?
88.
So this is like before Facebook.
Yeah.
Before Instagram.
Right.
Okay, so.
Exactly. This is before all of that, right?
Okay, so go ahead.
So what happened was, these people said, hey, you know what? We need to get to know each other, mm-hmm. and we need to get to know who's at these different companies. So we're going to start this thing. We're going to call it First Friday. So every first Friday of the month, we're going to select a location where we meet, and all the black people at these different companies can come out and network with each other and get to know each other, right? And so that was really successful because that's where it all started from. And it gave people a chance to just get to know people in different companies. We started fostering things like, learning the best from each other on, if you're a great salesperson or you're a CRO or something at a different company, you can connect with somebody else that's like that at a different company where you have a mentor now from a different company, right?
Yes.
Or, hey, say like you're working at IBM and you want to get into, Dell. Now you've got some connects with people that you've met there, So a lot of other cultures have always had that network to do those things, and we were kind of isolated from those networks because we just didn't have it.
And that was big back then.
That was huge back then.
It was all about who you know to get in.
Absolutely.
Back then. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So First Fridays fulfilled that for many of years.
Okay.
So let's fast forward just a little bit. Well, before that though, before we fast forward, so the other thing about First Fridays is it grew all across the country. So it started in New York. It started in San Francisco around the same time.
Right.
And then there was a chapter that sprung up all across the nation. I mean, we had like over 55, 60 chapters of First Fridays because they were in different cities, right? So you had them in Atlanta, D.C., Chicago, Birmingham, Alabama, Nashville, Tennessee, Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. It blew up. It blew up. So this became a thing, man, where every first Friday of the month you had a group of black professionals that were networking and getting together at a different city around the United States. And it even grew to Canada. There's one in Toronto, Canada. It grew to the Bahamas. So, it became international, and it was a growing thing, which was awesome.
Right. So it grew everywhere else, and then how did that started moving towards some of the things that was going on that you guys were doing in the Bay Area at the time? So,
in the Bay Area, like I said, we were just having the happy hour, right, where we get together once a month.
Happy hour, having some drinks.
It was like having a little bourbon, bro. Exactly. Drink.
Yes.
Every time you say happy hour, you better have a drink right here. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what I was going to say is that it blossomed. So the happy hour was like 5 to 7, right?
Okay.
That's the way I do it. And so people would come, they network. We'd have some vendor booth spaces. So you had small businesses that were kind of advertising themselves and things like that. Fast forward, I moved out here to the Bay in 1991, December 91. I was working for Intel, right? And I moved to the Bay, and I was going out, I'm 20-something years old, going out to clubs, and I'm like, man, this is not my scene. I don't really like this. This is not happening for me. Mm-hmm. I remember I was at one club, and, I'm dressed up with a suit and everything, because back then, people were wearing jackets, suits, and everything.
Yeah, you got suited and booted.
You were suited and booted, right? So I'm at this club, man, and this dude standing on the table with his shirt off, twirling, and, he's sweating. I was like, man, what the heck?
What did I get myself into?
Yeah, what did I get myself into, man? This is not my scene right here, right?
Oh, man, right.
So I got back to work and told one of my mentors, black people in the company, and they were like, man, have you ever heard of First Fridays? I was like, yeah. Nah, I've never heard of that. So then I said, okay, well, let me check that out.
Yeah.
So I went to my first Fridays in 92. Yeah, 92. I went to my first, May 92. I went to my first Fridays. And I fell in love.
You got hooked.
Oh, I fell in love. Okay. I walked in. You had these sisters and brothers suited and booted.
Yes, what you was looking for.
I had exactly what I was looking for. Right. It was a corporate, classy crowd of people.
Yeah.
Everybody was nice, having a good time, just being friendly, networking. I met some really cool people. And then, just so happened, they had a call out. They said, hey, we're looking for some volunteers, for some people to come on the First Fridays and help us be a part of this movement.
Right.
So at that point, I said, you know what? That's something I'd like to do, right? So at the time, Deanna Roberts.
Okay. Yep, Deanna.
Both of us joined at the same time, right? We both became partners, and we didn't know each other, right?
Right.
So we joined, and we became volunteers for First Fridays, and, Deanna, we'll fast forward to her story in a minute, but we both were just kind of like, go do this, people, for several months. At the time, Bill Hosey, Charles Mott, Stephanie Audrey, and several other people were running the organization, and they brought us in, and we just started helping out, right? So that happened for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And then they started saying, hey, you know what? We're rolling off. Like, different people. One person moved out of the state somewhere else. One person just said, hey, it's time for me to do something different. I got some other, entrepreneurial ventures I'm going to try. And so it was kind of me and Deanna sitting at the helm. And we said, let's keep this going. Right. So
so it began. Right.
Yeah. So right around that time, we were averaging about 300 people, at First Fridays. And we were once again, we were still going to we started now going 5 to 9. Right. And the beautiful thing about First Fridays is that we would bounce around to different locations in the Bay Area. So we'd have one in San Jose, we'd have one in San Mateo, we'd have one in Oakland.
Keeping it fresh.
It was always a location that, we were kind of exposing.
Yes.
It was a location that people didn't really know about. But we brought them to there, and back then, the venues really appreciated that, right? They were like, hey, man, we need the exposure, so we were begging for you guys to come to our location.
Right. It's free advertising.
It's free advertising for us, right? On top of that, they would have the DJ there. They would have a band playing. They'd have free appetizers for the people to eat.
So incorporating both together.
Absolutely. And so it was just a beautiful marriage, man. Yeah. And so we exposed so many different new venues, and we just continued to grow in the Bay Area like that, for a number of years. And so then a lot of dynamics started changing in the Bay Area. As you mentioned, there was no Facebook, there was no email, there was no Yahoo when we first started, right?
Yes.
So Yahoo came somewhere around, I want to say 1990 something. I can't remember exactly, but I remember because I set up my account, and I still got the same address as back then. That's kind of old, but it's the same. And now we started, using that as our database for doing emails, because really all we did was word of mouth. First Fridays was word of mouth in the beginning. There was no email database.
Amazing how it's built up from that. Exactly. But you know what? Nowadays, even with everything, Facebook, Instagram, all these things, word of mouth is still one of the biggest things.
It is still one of the biggest.
And it can make or break you.
It's the most powerful because, and we talk about that all the time. You and I do even.
Yes.
The importance of your brand.
That's right.
So, getting back to the story of First Fridays, the dynamics had changed along the way. So, I don't know if you remember back in the day where it was dress down Fridays at work started.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of major changes for us.
Right.
Because we used to come suited and booted to First Fridays every Friday. In fact, our best dress of the week was on Friday, right? Right. Before First Friday.
You had the outfit ready.
Man, I look really good at work today. What's going on, Right. And so after a while, man, we started, when they started having dress down Fridays, we were still requiring people to dress up. So, people were leaving work with jeans and going home, changing into a suit, and then coming out to First Fridays, right? Because they knew what the get down was. Right. You can't come here without, you gotta can't have no jeans on. And so then that started changing because, people started getting a little frustrated. Like, man, I don't have to wear jeans. I don't have to wear a suit at work, but y'all making me wear one here. Da, 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 da. So we had to relax the dress code from suits to jeans and blazers.
Right. Still keeping a little upscale, but not going too low with it.
No tennis shoes though at the time. It was like, hey, you got to still wear your hard sole shoes at the time, the tie-ups, these slip-ons, whatever. Right. And so that was going really well for a while.
Yeah.
But then in right around 2000, technology took a downturn in the Bay Area, man. And I remember I was managing these email lists, and I was seeing 30 bounce backs from IBM, 20 bounce backs from Hewlett Packard, 50 bounce backs from Intel, and I was just seeing all these people getting laid off at once, right?
Which was a lot of the clientele that was coming to the events.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, muscled through that because that was pretty telling to see all of our folks, being laid off at these different companies. I'm getting all these bounce back emails. So now, that's a new challenge, right? Now I'm like, okay, I've collected their email from work. I can't even email them at work anymore.
Right.
And by the way, the company started saying no more personal emails.
Right.
They started cracking down on emails that were coming into the people at work. Right?
Yes.
So we had to really re-engineer how we promote to our people, right? So that became the start of collecting the personal email addresses, creating flyers, which we never had done before, right? So that we could hand them out to people.
Street team, get the street team going.
Get the street team going, exactly.
Right.
So we had to get all that going, right? So that was, but then, with the economy down, also the location started changing. Their dynamics started changing. They were like, well, we used to let you come for free, but now, we need a little money.
They looking for something now, right?
If you're going to come here, we need you to pay a little something to come here. We're like, what? We never paid that.
How times have changed, right?
Times have changed, right? So, and then, they didn't want to pay for the DJ. They didn't want to pay for the band. So all those dynamics changed, man. And we had to really kind of grow through those things. And this was happening. And the other thing that happened, that was really interesting too, is that there's this First Friday's Art Murmur thing that started popping up. Right. And so, now it had been a predominantly black professional driven event and organization, and some museums and some art exhibit halls started saying, oh, we're going to adopt this concept to bring people out on the first Friday of the month and we'll call it First Friday.
And they're calling, oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
So that was a little confusion in the market for a while. So Deanna and I ran that from 92 all the way up until about 2011.
Yes.
And as you know, we got a really famous event, the White Party, that started back at Preservation Park. We got to talk about. Let's pause there for a second.
I'm gonna pause there because I want to say this, right? Mm-hmm. In today's world, White Party everywhere. White Party on the ship. White Party over here. White Party in my backyard. Everybody's throwing a White Party.
Yeah.
But when you trace back the White Party, the originators of the White Party was First Friday.